Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And joining us once again is the principal of Conneaut High School, Tim Neal. Tim, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Tim, you were here earlier in the year when you first got the job.
Absolutely.
So, and for some of those who may have not caught that interview, give us a little bit of your background and how you led to here at Conneaut.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely. I was born and raised in Conneaut, actually, a Conneaut High School alumni. Chose to go into the Marine Corps after I graduated from high school, and spent 4 years in the Marines. Was able to get my associates from Campbell University while I was in. Came out, had everything planned, of course, as a 22, 23-year-old, and was going to Edinburgh. I was going to major in psychology, go to law school. Had the opportunity to do some coaching here in Conneaut, actually. Football with Ken Parise, and ultimately decided to change my major, go into secondary education. Spent a couple years teaching at Northwestern over in Albion, PA. Also had the opportunity to be the co-athletic director there, and that kind of cycled me into my quest to go into administration. Graduated from Youngstown State with my master's degree, and went over to Lakeside High School as the athletic administrator. Spent a couple years as the athletic administrator there, and then 5 years as the assistant principal there. Went to Edgewood High School the past couple years, where I was the principal at Edgewood High School. Finished my doctorate at YSU, and then I had, due to the shuffle in administration a year ago, had the opportunity to throw my hat in the ring and come home and come back to Conneaut as a principal.
So you've had a lot of athletic
I have had a lot
background
of
at all
athletic.
these schools.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Northwestern first,
Yes.
the home of the Wildcats.
Home of the Wildcats.
So you're kind of familiar with some of these Pennsylvania teams that are Conneaut
I
teams
am,
now involved
absolutely. I am, absolutely. And some of them hold true to their traditions. Whether they be a strong football school or a strong basketball school, but yes, absolutely.
I've seen some strong basketball schools.
There are
like,
some strong basketball
like Cindy's
schools.
Fairview Tigers the other
Yes.
day. They were tremendous.
They
a little bit
absolutely-
off their game, but still they were
They
tremendous.
were tremendous. They were tremendous, and I'd like to think they were off their game because we played them pretty hard. But
Yeah.
our boys stepped up. But
Yeah.
they are every bit of the undefeated season they have.
Right. You mentioned
So-
our boys, the Spartan boys, are struggling, but not from effort because
Not
they
from
play
effort
right
at
down
all.
to the end, don't they?
Absolutely, we've had a lot of games come down to 2 points, 1 point. Absolutely, we've
They
played
play
to the
very
end.
hard. Yeah, that's a credit to the coach too,
Absolutely,
and the players.
and the players.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely,
So then from Northwestern, you went to Lakeside,
went to
and
Lakeside
you
High
had
School.
some
Yep.
administration and athletic.
Sure. Started on the athletic side of the house as an athletic administrator. Had the opportunity and the privilege to run the sports program for a couple years,
Okay.
and then chose to go to the assistant principal role. It opened up with a vacancy when Van McReef was the assistant principal, head football coach at the time. Went to Pymatumin Valley. So
Then you went to Edgewood, principal,
to
and you were
Edgewood.
there how many years?
2 years
2
at Edgewood.
years.
Absolutely.
And then you got to come back to your
And I
hometown
got to come back.
of Conneaut.
Absolutely. Kind of worked my way geographically right back to right back to where it began.
All around, all within driving
Absolutely.
distance.
All within
in the
driving
area.
distance.
Take me through the 4 schools as far as what differences, similarities did you see in staff, do you see in students from all 4 of those schools?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll say, the similarity is certainly coming down to the classroom and academics, and that's the focus of any high school, is to prepare kids, to help kids to get them forward and graduated and on so that they can be successful. And I would say a lot of similarities athletically. I know that there's some different size schools involved there, especially when you talk about Lakeside. But when it really came down to it, very much similar athletes, similar kids that you would
Sure.
have. So athletically, a lot of similarities. Some of the differences, community to community, you find that there's different things focused. Northwestern, although it's only 25 minutes up the road, is very much a rural school. It was nothing at the end of the year to see a couple kids come. Of course, to be funny, but come on their tractors and so it just a different type of setting, just a rural setting, and then you get over to Ashtabula, it's very much more of a city setting. And so there's just different positives and different issues that you face depending on that type of culture, that type of situation.
Now, being at Northwestern, what's different? Is there any difference in educational philosophy, rules versus the Ohio schools? Is there anything different there? As far as testing goes and all that kind of stuff.
I'll say this, to my knowledge, at least up to the point I was there, they were a little more consistent. They have state tests, just like Ohio has state tests, and there are state standards that you have to meet to get your students graduated, and but the consistency of staying with what that testing was, what the standards were, was a little more consistency, and whether that's good or bad or indifferent, I don't know. I know Ohio can be a little frustrating, especially as of recent, going with different tests, and but in the end, I think it's gonna wash out for the better. I think we're just trying to find what really truly is the best benchmark and assessment to use for our students. There has to be some accountability. And there has to be some way to measure a student's readiness and college readiness and successfulness. I think we're just kind of trying the waters to find that place, and that transition period can be a little frustrating, for students, for parents, for administrators, teachers, absolutely.
Of course, with a possible levy looming here in Conneaut
Sure.
at Northwestern and in Pennsylvania, they don't have levies.
That's
do they?
a big difference.
So that's got to be an advantage to them, right?
That's a big advantage. That is a big difference fundamentally when it comes to funding education.
Do you ever see that happening in Ohio?
Boy, I could wish. I don't. I think that would take a big legislative move, and I think on the other side of things, I think politically that would be tough to get passed through the state. I never really grasped it, especially while I was there, the idea of a commonwealth. But that truly is one of those fundamentals that they hold dear as a commonwealth, is education. It's kind of funny, having been in Ohio and then going over there to teach, and still having, of course, colleagues and friends over there in Pennsylvania, is my last year there, the state had made a little bit of a fundamental change that said that, if you were going over a certain percentage, then you had to levy the money. Otherwise, you could do the tax reassessment. And of course, everybody was up in arms. I was like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna? But again, and I joke with them that, because there's still a guaranteed percentage that if needed, the board can act on tax reassessment and get that percentage, and that's a fundamental difference in here. We face any new money whatsoever has to be levied, and so you do what you can, and you certainly try your best to make sure that you're being fiscally frugal and you're using dollars in smart ways, but at some point costs go up, and there's nothing you can do about that. Inflation happens, and at some point, without new money coming in to help with that, then you have to look at reducing to balance the budget.
And that's what Lori's been
And
looking at.
that's what Lori's looking at currently. Correct.
Right now, and she's new here
She is new as well, absolutely.
Having been here now, you're completing about 5 months of school right now, right? So far,
Yes.
September
Yep.
through almost
About 5
January.
months. Yep.
Yeah. What challenges have you seen here at Conneaut High School for yourself?
Okay. I'll say, and I knew there'd be some challenges coming in. There were some expectations. I was over at Buckeye, things were well, scores were well. I knew scores were going to be a big ticket here as a challenge. And so I knew that it certainly is. We're looking at some fundamental academically programming, looking at ways that we can provide intervention to help students get scores up on the state tests. and you know, and the same challenge rings true, I think, in every district I've been in, is attendance. And you try to find ways to help increase attendance, get students into school, and how to keep attendance consistent. So those are the two biggest challenges, and they were expected. I knew them coming in, and they held true. So
As far as discipline, how's that been going in high school?
very, very good. They're great kids, and you know, every school has discipline, and there are issues that you need to address. But truly, you know, the kids love to be there for the most part, and it shows. And that was a big goal of mine, was to help increase school spirit, to increase the excitement of being there. And so I'd like to think that that's had an impact on that you know, students enjoy and they like being a part of, and that helps certainly with discipline. And
Sure. When you say increased school spirit, you mean as far as rooting on the sports teams?
that's a big part of it. That's a big part of
How
it.
tough was that to do now with the way all this technology is around here and these kids are doing all kinds of other things?
Well, that's for sure. You know, and it's funny you say that, because you know, I thought we had a great spirit during the fall. Of course, it was pretty easy getting behind the football team. They had a very successful season.
Winning has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And the students got behind the team, and but any given week you could look down the stands and see, you know, 10, 15 cell phone lights, students looking down.
Sure.
So I don't know if you ever really truly completely battle against that.
Well, not just students,
but adults as well.
Adults as well.
No, I'd like to think they were checking the Indian score.
How many students are at Conneaut High School?
We have 531 students, I believe, right now currently enrolled at the high school.
How does that compare with recent years?
We're down some. I think we're down about 20 from recent years. We have about 419 in the building. We truly have, and I'd have to think we're probably one of the schools with the most students who go to ATEC, which is a good thing. But we currently have about 111 students that go out to ATEC.
Wow.
Yeah, big number.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
9th and 10th graders?
That's 11th and 12th.
11th and 12th
with a
graders.
few 10th graders sprinkled in with a new program they had started.
Wow,
So
that's quite a bit.
it is a great number.
That is a great number. So not too bad. How much of that do you lose from, of course, the county now has open enrollment.
Yes.
Do you find any loss there?
You know, there's some. We have some coming in as well. So, you know, we probably come close to breaking even, I would think, on enrollment, whether being open out or open in. You know, which is a good place to be. You know, in Edgewood at Buckeye, we very much, the percentage in is extremely higher than out, and that's great. And I don't think it'll ever change. But if they ever did away with open enrollment, that would create big issues. It's nice to be in a place where we're kind of even.
I was going to ask you about that. We had Diana DePolfi on the show here a few weeks back. Of course, she's now the new school board president.
Yes.
And I asked her about open enrollment. She said Joel Taylor would be able to fill us more in that as far as
Athletically, sure.
athletically speaking. But there are some rules, she was saying, like somebody may want to go to this school because their football program is better, or somebody might want to go here to basketball because their basketball is better, but there's some kind of rule there.
There are rules. There are
Can
rules
you
in
explain
place.
that for us? She thought
Sure.
maybe
I'll do my best.
Good.
Because there's many bylaws to it, but fundamentally the OHSAA, the Athletic Association, has in place that you cannot move to a district within a 50-mile radius without losing half of the season that you played in the previous district. So for instance, if I'm at Conneaut and I play football and basketball, and I make the determination after my 9th grade year because ninth grade coming in is the open enrollment is open with no athletic ramifications.
Gotcha.
So after my ninth grade year, or yeah, it'd have to be after my ninth grade year, if I chose to go to Edgewood open enrolled and I played football and basketball, then I would have to sit half the football season and half the basketball season. Now, if I didn't do anything in the spring at Conneaut, I'd be wide open to run track or play baseball in the spring for the full season. So those kind of safeguards are there to at least kind of discourage that idea of movement from school to school simply based on athletics.
That's what Diana thought. Now, it's like you can
Now,
make
it
a
isn't
move.
just a discouragement because you can still do it. I had students in my last position at Edgewood that gave up a half a season to come into the school.
All right, let's say a ninth grader next year wants to go, a Conneaut kid wants to go to Edgewood for 10th grade.
Absolutely.
And then 11th grade, he wants to come back. Can they keep going back and forth? Is there any limits there? Sports wise.
They'd be losing each time. I mean, I'm not sure what the benefit for the student would be, for the student athlete. They'd be losing a half a season. Now, I will say this, you can go back to your original school once without being penalized. So if they left and went to Edgewood and was penalized, they can make a return to their home school one time without being penalized.
Okay. So there is a penalty involved there, though.
But there is a penalty involved. So I'm not sure, after they made the move once, I'm not sure, that it makes a lot of sense for the student to continue to penalize themselves in doing that.
Are you personally a fan of open enrollment?
I'm not. I believe that there's a lot of fundamental issues that I feel personally come with open enrollment. This state, and I'll say the nation as a whole, I think, with public education, we've tried to work towards having fair and consistent schools, and certainly in Ohio, we've tried to work towards fair and consistently funded schools. And I think open enrollment can have a big impact on that. I don't know if we see it so much here in our little region of Northeast Ohio, because like I said, especially like here in Conneaut, we kind of break even with kids going out, kids coming in. But I think as you start to get towards the Cleveland way, as you start to get towards maybe Western Ohio, there's some fundamental inequities in funding, I think, that happen because of open enrollment. But school choice is here, and it's here to stay.
You think it's here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. How it looks exactly might fluctuate a little bit over time, but I think the idea of school choice and the idea of having the ability to choose what school is that you feel is best for your child, I think some type of school choice is here to stay.
Is that statewide?
It is statewide. What is the option is as a district, if you choose whether or not to allow open enrollment students in. That's a local policy. I don't know too many districts that don't, because of it being so wide open now. But it is a local decision. The board has to act to allow open enrollment students to enter the district, but you have no control over students that choose to leave the district to go to another district that does. And that's open enrollment. I don't think open enrollment's nearly as big of an issue as charter schools, but that's probably a whole nother discussion.
That's another whole new interview.
We
We'll get you
spend
in
a
the
whole
summer.
interview
We'll
on
talk
charter
about
schools.
that.
That's right.
Let's get to another big issue now. Of course, the weather this time of year. Let's see, what are we? January 9th now.
January
We've had
9th.
4 snow days.
We have had
Is
4
that
snow
correct?
days. That is correct.
2-hour delay, is that still an option?
It is, but you don't see too many superintendents use it.
I don't like it.
And Chuck, that's why.
I don't like that because that can be disruptive.
It can be very disruptive for
Everybody.
everyone involved.
Yeah.
2-hour delays were very fundamental, and you'll still see them used in Pennsylvania.
They do it constantly.
And the reason is this: when Ohio went to hours instead of days for the students, when Ohio went to hours instead of days, it made sense to not do the 2 hour delay. You see it in Pennsylvania because they don't get calamity days. They build them into schedule and they're one for one. Most schools, when I was at Northwestern, I think we built in 3, maybe 4 days into the calendar. And so you had a day off scheduled, and if you had a snow day, that day became a day of school. They use a 2 hour delay to save days. Now that we're on hours, we don't have to save days. Hours, the state says, each grade level chunked, K6, 6 to 8, and 9 through 12, have an X amount of hours that students have to be in school. And for instance, 9-12 is 1,001 hours. Well, we're in school much longer than 1,001 hours. So we have, on the student side of things, the high school sits at like 19 extra days sitting over hours wise. We're not the gatekeeper, meaning we're not the ones that would dictate when we would have to start making up time. But in that aspect, then that takes that pressure off. In the disruption, like you said, superintendents have gone completely away from it because it's very disruptive. Parents first initially, if you have a 2 hour delay, then they have to think about, how do I get a babysitter for 2 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
I plan to go to work at this time. Now either I need to miss 2 hours of work, or I need to find a babysitter that morning for 2 hours.
Or if you have children in
If you
different
have
buildings.
children in different buildings, then it's going to throw off that whole schedule by 2 hours. And ultimately, what you find is probably, I'll be high, but probably 75% of the time, you had a 2 hour delay, and then you ended up canceling. So now you've disrupted for the 2 hours, and now you've canceled, and you've just created more turmoil on top of turmoil. And that's not even, that's just, thinking about it from the parent aspect and in the home aspect. The school aspect is no different. You have a 2 hour delay, the day's off by 2 hours. Some schools you try to shuffle periods. Some schools you try to make periods less time, so you're in each class for like 20 minutes a time.
I was just going to ask
There's nothing academically sound about being in class for 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you had that 2 hour delay, let's say you chose that option. I was just going to ask you, I think you kind of answered my question.
Sure.
Normally, what times the day start at the Conneaut High School?
It's 7:40.
7:40, so 2 hour delay means 9:40.
9:40.
So when they come at 9:40, do you start right where they would be at 9:40, or do you push it back to still going to homeroom or whatever?
Sure.
How does that work?
For the most part, you try to restructure and shuffle a little bit. Certainly, attendance purposes, everything is set up for first period.
What a headache.
So at some point, you got to go into first period right when you get there, so that you can take attendance and get it in the system. For us, that's only 50 minutes from lunch. So you come to school, get in a period, maybe 2, because 50 minutes would probably be split 25 minutes a period.
Sure.
And so you get in 2 periods, and then you go to lunch, and it just becomes, then you're out of schedule, the students are out of schedule. You spend most of the day trying to remind everybody what class you're moving to next and what time you're moving, and it really becomes a headache.
And please clear this up, Tim. It's always been this way for
Sure.
me, but people continuously ask the question, when there is no school, all extracurricular activities are canceled if it's a home game. What
Yes.
about if it's an away game and the away school is open?
Okay, there is only one exception to the away game. And the exception is if we cancel due to temperature. If we cancel school due to bad weather, due to inclement weather, snow, ice, then we've made the determination and the decision that we felt it was too dangerous to put students on the road. We're holding true to that for the entire day. We're not putting students on the road.
Okay.
Now, like I said, the exception with the away game would be the temperature. If we cancel, for instance, the last couple years where we've had several days
Of extreme cold.
And where we cancel due to temperature, and that's primarily due to students walking to school and getting to school without transportation. Then the away game, if that school was open, we would go. Because the thought process is the student has transportation to get to the high school, would then be put on a bus to get to the game, and it wasn't travel conditions, it was due to temperature.
So kind of similar to last Friday night when we had the Fairview Tigers scheduled here.
Yes.
We canceled the game because there was no school. It was a home game.
Yes.
It was miserable in the morning, but then the
Yes.
sun came
Then
out
the
all
sun
day and
came
people were
out
saying, why can't we have the game?
Sure.
That's the way we
And
can't.
and we're going to hold true. That's the policy you hold to. If you're going to cancel it due to travel conditions, then we're not going to put students on the road.
Now, they're not used to that in Pennsylvania, though, or are they?
They're not.
What was Fairview's reaction
They're not
to
a
that?
lot. Fairview, and all the PA schools, certainly as we've had, conference meetings and had discussions, there are schools there that they'll make the statement, that home or away, temperature or calamity, if we're closed, we're not rolling. Of course, the difference is Pennsylvania schools are very reluctant to close, and that's the way they operate. And but they're very understanding, and so Fairview knew when Joel Taylor made the call, they knew that okay, we won't be coming in tonight. Let's look at the next available, and that's kind of been our agreement with the conference, and in the conference. Everybody within the conference, whether it be PA school to PA school or us to a PA school, was the agreement that if we have to cancel, then we will look at the very next available day,
Which
for
was the
Fairview
next
is
day.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Well, so thanks for clearing that up for us.
for sure.
Tim, how do you relate with the other area superintendents and principals
And
in
principals?
the county? I guess in Pennsylvania too now, since we're in that conference.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
You guys get together for meetings or anything?
We do here in the county. I have the opportunity to meet some of the Pennsylvania principals, but it's nothing more than just cordially at athletic events. Here in the county, we do meet as principals. We have county principals meetings. Matter of fact, I have one tomorrow, where all the principals will come together.
Are they at different locations or same place?
We tried the different location for a little bit the past couple of years. We like the same place. We go out to ATEC. It's consistent. It's kind of centralized for everybody, whether you be in the Western County, Eastern County, up here by the lake, or in Southern County. ATEC seems to be the nice, consistent place. So we meet always at ATEC, and we come together and we discuss things. As a whole, the issues that we're facing, sometimes they're, individual to our schools, and it's just an opportunity to talk with colleagues about, hey, how would you take a look at this, or what do you think about this? But for the most part, we discuss things that affect us all equally. We talk about the testing, and we talk about the new legislation that's coming out, and how we react to that, and what things we need to have in place to make sure that we're operating efficiently and correctly. So it's a great time to get together with colleagues and talk about the issues that we're all facing together, and how we're going about addressing those. Relationship-wise with the principals and superintendents, I think I have a great relationship. Yeah, most of them, superintendents and principals, I've had some experience with having either worked with or collegially, knew each other pretty much throughout each district in the county, which is really nice.
You still have visions of becoming a superintendent someday down the road?
I do. I do. That's my ultimate goal. That's
Sure.
my life goal, and so I do have visions of making that move. Some people ask me why.
I'm making that decision now. Do I close school or do I keep
That,
it open?
and you know what? You joke, but that's the big one.
That is the
It's
big one. I remember
remember
talking with Lori about it.
absolutely.
Because she's new to that this year.
Absolutely.
As well.
In 2008, I think it was, I did my my internship during my administrative licensure for superintendent. It was kind of the foreground to going into my doctorate program, and I did it with Mr. Donatone, Joe Donatone, and he that was one of the very first things he talked about.
Oh,
He said,
my
as a
goodness.
superintendent, He goes, one of the hardest decisions you're going to make is a snow day. Just know you're not going to be right.
I was just going to say, if you close, somebody is going to say, why are they closed?
You're just
if
not
you're
gonna be
open,
right.
I'm not sending my kids. Why are they open? You can't win.
You can't win. And
And it's from November to the middle of
November
April.
to middle April. And so ultimately, he said it, certainly Lori has said it over and over, and they're absolutely right. You make the decision that you feel is best for the safety of the students.
Exactly.
And you can never, you can never be wrong on it.
And it has to be citywide, right?
It has to be citywide. You can't choose this school over that school.
Right. 'Cause you'll hear some people say, well, more than half of the students drive to the high school, so it can't be busing, but.
Yeah. Sure.
still.
Yeah. No, it's district-wide. Absolutely.
Well, Tim, thanks very much for coming on and joining us
My
on Around
pleasure.
the Town with Chuck. We'll get you back again because you're so good. So we'll get you back in
I don't
the
know
end
about
of the
good, but
year
I enjoy it.
and see how your first full year did.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And see you at basketball games.
Absolutely.
Tim Neal, principal, Conneaut High School, my guest on Around the Town with Chuck. Have a good night, everybody.